and stories, whatever you want to talk about, I'm game.
Well, you have
Anything
got
but COVID.
Yeah, exactly. And if I hear the phrase "we are in this all together" one more time, I'll scream.
Oh God, tell me about it.
That is fantastic. So you have got some just amazing stories. Like you were telling us something about Rod Stewart the last time you were on the show.
No, not Rod Stewart. David Bowie.
David Bowie, yes. Tell us about that. Tell us this David Bowie tale.
In 1980, he was in the play The Elephant Man, and he lived in Chicago for 2 months. They were trying to play out here in Chicago to iron the kinks out of it, and I ended up going once a week for 5 weeks. I was never any farther back than fifth row. And to this day, I still know lines of dialogue from that play. And he succeeded in his role because every time I went as a fan. But during the play itself, I would forget that, and I'd actually get wrapped up in the characters and his performance. So he totally succeeded. But anyway, there was a very short alley that he had to leave the stage door and walk up to Balboa Avenue to get in his limo.
Yes.
And at the start of the run, it was just jam-packed with people. I mean, you couldn't get anywhere near him. A couple weeks into it, there was nobody there. So we would stand in the alley, and he was such a nice guy. There were no bodyguards, no nothing. It was just him. And he literally walked up to me and just signed my program and started chatting. And I talked to him about when he lived in Berlin and was hanging out with Iggy Pop. He told me too, because he did the role without makeup, he had to do muscle contortions, that after the show he would go back to his hotel room and he would do calisthenics for about an hour because he was so cramped up. And then he also talked about his love for bakery goods and chocolate. But he was just so gracious. He had no airs about him at all. He was like the number one person I always wanted to meet. And it's been a long time, but I at least got to achieve that goal.
That is awesome. We have got a great guest with us today. Now, how do we find you online, social media, websites, listen to your music, everything? Tell us a little about this, my friend.
Well, I'm on Facebook. It's under Robert Hurns, Hurns. And then all my music is on Amazon.com. I'm on there. And pretty much every major platform you can think of for streaming and downloading. Spotify, iTunes, Apple, you name it.
That's great. Now, what's been some reaction to some of your music over the years?
It's actually my favorite compliment. People tell me that I should try to get into TVs and movies. That's easier said than done. But as I mentioned last time, I've always been in love with movie soundtracks. So my stuff is kind of a blend of rock and movie soundtrack. And I honestly think a lot of my stuff is tailor-made for incidental music and either TV or movies. And that's one goal I'd like to crack.
Fantastic. So, what do people make of your music online? What's some feedback you've gotten from folks?
All kinds of stuff. I've gotten stuff that sound like it was written by professional reviewers, haunting, stuff along that lines, atmospheric, painted tapestries. I've never gotten any negativity, fingers crossed. But I've gotten very positive feedback, and what surprises me is the age we live in now with the internet, how far my music has gone. It's literally gone all over the globe. I'm not making a ton of money doing it, but when I look at my reports and I see that, Australia, New Zealand, China, Japan, parts of Africa, Russia, South America, Canada, it just blows my mind that someone I don't know is like somewhere out in the world listening to something I recorded in my house. It's amazing.
So we have got a great musician with us today. Bob Hurns joins us here in our broadcast, and so what's been some of the different trials and tribulations of you putting music out there, and some of the hardships and things of a musician?
Well, like I mentioned before, I don't play live. I used to, but I haven't played live since, I want to say, 1990. The live part was trying to draw people to the gig, lugging your amplifiers up 3 flights of stairs, that kind of thing. 10 people showing up, taking $20 at the door. The positive side of that was playing with people, and I love that sense of camaraderie when things click when you play with other people. When you do it all yourself, like I do, it's easier to be in control of everything. The internet makes it easier to distribute. The biggest problem I found, because I do everything from soup to nuts, was mixing and mastering. And I oh my God, mixing was just, I'm pretty good at it now, but it took me a long time to get the hang of it. Bass levels especially. If you don't mix bass sounds right, you get what I call cumulative rumble. And when you put a test disc on and listen to it, it's just god awful. But I finally learned how to eliminate that and do the mastering. And people I know have actually complimented me on the mixing. I'm very proud of that.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. So you've got all these stories that you've just run into famous people over the years. Tell us a few more of these, my friend, because that David Bowie thing was quite entertaining.
Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you the scariest story. It's an infamous person I ran into. I went to college in the city. It was called Northeastern Illinois University. And it was my freshman year. I was out of high school, and I didn't have a car. So I took the bus back and forth between the school and went home. And it was in December, and it was typical Chicago, freezing cold. The bus isn't coming. I'm standing there shaking and shaking. And since it's the early 70s, I put out my thumb to hitchhike. It was pretty common back then. And in about 5 minutes, this huge Cadillac comes along, and the guy says, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going down Foster Avenue to Harlem." And he goes, "Oh, that's great. I live west of there. I'll give you a ride home." So I get in the car. The guy's kind of heavy set. He's got stubble. He's wearing a black leather jacket. The back seat of his car is filled with tools like saws and hammers and all kinds of stuff. You know where this is going. And, so we don't even get too far from where he picked me up, and stuff started coming out of this guy's mouth that, as a teenager, I was 17 or 18, I'd never heard an adult say this kind of stuff. And a bunch of red flags went off. I thought, man, I have to get out of this car, like ASAP.
Yes. And
thank God, right after that happened, he hit a red light, and I popped open that door and slammed it shut. And it was fortunately at a bus stop. I just stood there shaking like a leaf out of fear. And he took off. And keep in mind, this is 1973. So flash forward to 1979, and they arrest Gacy, John Wayne Gacy. And it took me 2 or 3 days to put all this together. But the Cadillac was there. His arrest photo was him wearing that same damn black leather jacket that he had worn on that day. And he was a contractor. That's why the back seat was filled with tools. And I mean, even now, this far down the road, I get chills just thinking about that.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Did you not hear the background music when you were running? Because it probably said, "Dun dun run, dun dun run."
Yeah. And
Holy moly.
like I said, to this day, I still get chills just thinking about it. I read a book about him, and '73 was when he actually started killing kids too. So I was very lucky that I escaped. But you never know who you're going to meet. Oh.
That's right. You've met David Bowie. You've met John Wayne Gacy.
I was at a business.
Jiggy was. I was going to say the last guest, Jiggy was telling him that I like to stalk people, and she had that deer in the headlight look like I was going to show up on her front door.
It's funny. I was at a business meeting once, and we're having dinner, and I told that same story, and one of the guys says, "I can top your story." And I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, I went to grade school with Jeffrey Dahmer."
Wow. We have got a great musician with us today. Bob joins us here on Skype, and some of the stories that you have run into over the years.
I think you could write a book.
You could write a book, sir.
I could. I've often thought of doing that, but hopefully there'd be a market for it.
So.
Well, the deal with Chicago is like there's so many bands passing through here and celebrities that it's actually really easy to meet people. On the rock and roll scene, I used to hang out at stage doors after the show to see who would come out. Would you get an autograph, be able to chat with them? And there used to be a great bookstore called Croc and Brentano's, and oh my God, they would have movie stars, astronauts, sports figures. Yeah. So for the price of a book, you could go over there, meet a celebrity, and chat with them. I think Johnny Cash was the most down-to-earth person I met at a book signing.
Wow.
And probably the weirdest was Andy Warhol. Andy was in a world of his own.
I bet you.
Yeah, I to be honest, I wasn't very impressed with him, but I met a bunch of astronauts, Alan Shepard, Scott Carpenter, Lovell, you name it. It's a great city if you're into that kind of thing,
So, how do people purchase your music and find it online?
Hard copy, Amazon.com. And there's also a link on CD Baby, I believe, and then all the major platforms for streaming and downloading.
Awesome. So we have got a great guest with us today. He is chatting with us about his music. He's also telling us about some of his personal history and some of the personal stories that he's just had in his life. He met David Bowie. He met John Wayne Gacy. He met and hung out with Johnny Cash at a book signing. It's just amazing.
And now someday, Jiggy, he's going to talk about how he sat down with Jiggy and John and Jay.
Yes, exactly. That'll go in the book.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's not as creepy as the John Gacy thing, but
Well, I will have to say, Bob, that you are a great storyteller, because the way that you framed that John Wayne Gacy was great. Because I remember when you told us that on the on the other program, and I had the exact same reaction that John had. I'm like, what?
Oh yeah, it's like holy freaking moly!
I was hoping you'd want to hear the story and have me back, and it worked.
Well, it is great. You've got great music. You've got great stories.
You got great attraction to serial killers. I mean,
See, what you need to do is do what was it Kelly did, where he made like rap opera. So you need to do some songs with some of your stories, like the time that you met, like the time you met that creepy guy with the saws in the back of the truck. You need to write a song about that.
Actually, I had heart surgery in February. My heart rate was up to 150 beats a minute.
Jesus.
And, yeah. I was walking around the house like it was about 100 years old, and I want to write a song that goes from like a normal heartbeat, 60 beats a minute, swinging up to 150, get kind of manic, then back down to normal, and call it "Do the AFib." And
Do the AFib.
So that'll be something inspired from something I went through.
So
make sure you have that horrible background sound effects that makes you feel like you're almost a faint.
Yeah. Well, I want to dub in the sound of a human heart, and then that damn EKG sound, the beep.
Oh, yeah.
Get that in there. Yeah.
So, you literally could turn this into like a stage show. You could do a few songs, throw out a few of your stories.
The Bob monologues.
You could do some really cool stuff. So
just kind of have a musical interlude in between stories, kind of like, he talks about John Wayne Gacy, and then you get to he's getting ready to go to the heart one. He plays the thing with they have the little meet, and then hey, you go to the next story about the heart thing, and
it's
this is actually doable. See, the problem with my music though is that if I could play some of the solo parts, but if I actually wanted to recreate it, I would need an army of musicians on keyboards to do it. Yeah.
That too.
But thanks for the idea.
Just have your computer there or something,
Well, that too. So
you just kind of have a little board there. Bink.
So Bob, you've had the David Bowie interaction. You met your wife based upon love for the Beatles.
More than that.
You almost became a statistic to John Wayne Gacy. What other stories do you have for us in our time left with you here?
Just other famous musicians I've met, other people. I met Iggy Pop a couple times. All three guys from the Jam. Lux Interior from the Cramps, who wanted the T-shirt I was wearing.
Yes, tell that story. That's a fun one.
Well, have you ever heard of Wax Trax Records here in Chicago?
I have. I've heard the name.
They kind of invented the industrial sound, but they used to have autograph sessions. And the Cramps, their album "Songs the Lord Taught Us" had just come out. And once again, it was freezing cold out, and I was wearing a leather jacket with only a T-shirt underneath, but the T-shirt had the Wolfman on it. Lon Chaney is the Wolfman. And when Lux saw it, he's like, "I want your shirt, I want your shirt." I'm like, "Dude, it's like 10 degrees outside. I'm not going to be walking around with just a leather on and no T-shirt." And then he kind of got mad about that, and that was the end of my conversation with him. And then Poison Ivy was there. I got her autograph, and then later that evening we went to see him play live. The Jam also did an autograph session. I got to meet Paul Weller and the other two guys, Buckler. I met Pete Townsend once at a book signing.
That would have been sweet.
That would have been
fun.
And
to be honest, I've met so many celebrities. When I saw Pete, I felt like I was 12 years old. I was like so in awe of him. And they kept the line moving. You had to move really quick. And I thought, wow, what are my 20 seconds going to be with Pete? So I just spoke from the heart. When I got up there, I said, "Pete, I think Live at Leeds is the greatest live album of all time." And he actually took his pen and threw it down. He shook my hand and he said, "Thanks, mate, but the sound quality is crap." And then that was it. That was my 20 seconds with Pete. But, it was kind of a magic moment for me. I met Glenn Matlock from the Sex Pistols a couple times.
Wow.
Sex Pistols?
He's like really personable. The first time I met him, he was playing bass for Iggy Pop, and it was my birthday on November 18th of 1979. And I said to him, "What do you like about America?" and he pulled like all these bazooka bubble gum out of his pocket, and he goes, "I love your effing bubble gum. It's the best." And I ended up buying him a beer. He was like real personable. And then like decades down the road, I got to meet him again. I also had a buddy from law school who worked the door at one of the local clubs, and he's got some great stories as well. He ended up bodyguarding for John Lydon and B-52s, Sinead O'Connor, all kinds of people.
It is great. You have put a lot of cool things out there. You've got some great music as well. Before we let you go, I guess one more time, how do we find your music? Run it down for us, my friend.
Amazon.com for the hard copies. 2 solo albums under my name, Robert Hurns. Those 2 are Krabby Road and Music from Imaginary Movies. And then
awesome.
I've done 2 meta bands, Meet the Christains, and it's not religious. It's just the name of the band. And the Von Font Counters. It's called Castle of the Von Font Counters.
That's great. Well, you are so fun, my friend, and you've got some really fun experiences. I appreciate you making time for us today. Thanks for coming on, brother. I really appreciate it, man.
If any of you are ever in Chicago, contact me and we'll show you the town.
You know what is funny about that? I have to. I'm gonna be in Rosemont, Illinois, of all places.
Oh my God, that's like the stone's throw from where we live. Yeah.
They are having a thing called Exotica, which is a porn convention.
Oh.
And me and Jay and a few of the fine feathered friends are going to be going to Exotica, and I believe it's the last weekend in July. And
wow.
And so, yeah, I will. I'm going to shoot you an email as soon as we get off the air here, and I'm going to send you my cell phone number. Text me. I would, because we're going to have some time to kill. And one of my, I guess I shouldn't have said that with the John Wayne Gacy thing earlier, but one of the things that we're going to be doing is I want to make sure that I can interview some Chicago musicians. And I am also going to try to mark out and track down and interview and get a photo with Mancow from Chicago. So I'm hoping I can track him down.
I own some of his stuff that I bought in an auction.
He is great. I am a huge Mancow mark. I'm buddies with his producer DJ Love Cheese, and I am trying to make that happen for when I am in Chicago, as he calls it.
Well, the last week of July 25th, the original Bauhaus is playing here at the Aragon Ballroom.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, if you're interested in that, I think it's a Wednesday night if you're in town.
We may see.
My wife and I have tickets. We're going if it goes through.
We may see what we can do on that. But yeah, I'm gonna shoot you a message on email after this, and we're gonna link up that weekend, my friend. So
all right, cool.
I appreciate it. I will talk to you then. Thanks for being with us today. Really appreciate it. The time.
All right, thanks, James.
Thank you, brother. There he goes, and we are gonna take a timeout. And when we come back, we have got more. It is going to be a hell of a deal. The next guest, this is going to be fun. So we have got more coming up on the other side. It is the world famous